Hello, and welcome back to Random Vids. So for today's video, I decided we should talk more about Disventure Camp. So I ranked all 3 seasons, from worst to best, not including the beta, but one thing I haven't ranked yet is all of the characters. So there is a lot of Disventure Camp characters. Obviously we have, 14 from Season 1, and then 14 from Season 2. And then, of course, we got released with the new characters that are coming out for Season 3. Or Season 4. I will not be ranking those teams, by the way, or those contestants. Only Seasons 1 and 2 teams. Obviously, then, some of them came back in Season 3, since that's All-Star. So, one thing, I'm not ranking the staff, because they're not contestants, except for Oliver. That's the only exception, so I hope you enjoy this, funny, I don't even know what you want to call it. Hope you enjoyed this ranking video, so let's get to my absolute least favorite Disventure Camp character, and that is easily Jake. I mean, come on, who else would it be? Alright, so, Mr. Jake, where do we start with you? So Jake has been in now 3 seasons, if you include the beta. So beta, Season 1, and then now, of course, Season 3. All 3 times, he made it really far. He got 3rd place in the beta, 5th place in Season 1, and then 2nd place in Season 3. So, what's the problem with Jake? Because obviously, he just seems like a normal dude. Well, this guy, I don't know what is going on, but he just never grew up. And anytime something goes on, he has to throw the biggest hissy fit I have ever seen out of any TD or Disventure Camp character, even worse than Dave. Mainly just because Dave is in 1 season. Jake is in 3 seasons. So, I don't know the beta, never seen the beta, but for Season 1, Jake was mainly just there. I don't know, he wasn't really too terribly annoying in Season 1. Obviously he got a call that his grandma died, so then him and Miriam started bonding, and then he started falling for Tom, so then we had all that going on. My main problem with Jake in Season 1 is that he was just extremely gullible and dumb. So, he would believe anything that our villains Fiore and Alec would say. Like, it could be anything. Jake would believe them. Just because, why the heck not? And besides the episode he gets eliminated in, I didn't really think Jake was too terribly annoying. What makes Jake the absolute worst character is Season 3. Man, oh man, I don't know where you want me to begin with this character in Season 3. Talk about the extreme plot armor. So, let's start with this. Jake is a big screen hogger. Every episode has to have about half of its time indulged into Jake. Jake is just super annoying. Why is half of the focus in every episode on Jake? Is it because he's such a complex character? They're all complex characters, so why do we have to focus on this one stupid character that no one likes? Oh, it's because he's a big writer's pet, and we can tell. Look how far he made it in all 3 seasons. He's made it really far, which means a lot of screen time with Jake. Let's look at his character development this season. He basically got none. It was just a bunch of him screwing around and throwing a temper tantrum every time something didn't go its way. Like, for example, Ashley is not allowed to have any other friends besides Jake, which makes 0 sense. Why can't Allie be friends with Ashley? Like, why does Jake have to throw a big hissy fit about that? And he wonders why Allie didn't like him. Well, you're kind of hard to like, Jake, especially when you're acting like an immature child. That's the problem. Jake is, in his late 20s, and he acts like he's a 6-year-old. It's extremely embarrassing to watch, to the point where it just gets so cringy. Then we have the stupid story with him and Tom. I swear, it never ends. They even have their own spin-off coming soon. Is Jake just that much liked of a character? I don't remember people saying he's a great character. I mean, yeah, a few really like him, but really better than characters like Lake or Gret or Gabby? I don't think so. Absolutely not. Those characters are what you call good characters. I think those characters deserve their own spin-off, opposed to Jake. Jake, out of any character, got a spin-off. What? I'm so confused. Why is Jake getting his own spin-off? Oh, it's because they meandered along with his story in All Stars, gave him too much junk to work with, so now he just has all this stuff. Because at first, I guess he's this character who no one likes, and now all of a sudden everyone likes him because they gave him the slight little bit of character development just to make him tolerable for some characters. Well, just so they can have a Jake versus Rhea. I swear, I will never understand the finale. Jake and Rhea. Who wanted to see this? Really? Like, come on. You're making Total Drama All-Stars look like a masterpiece in comparison. I don't want to say that, because Total Drama All-Stars wasn't the greatest season ever either. But at least it had Mike and Zoe, two characters I really like, making it to the finale. This had Jake and Rhea, two of the absolute worst Disventure Camp characters. I just can't get over how horrible the second half of Season 2 was written. And half of the reason is this character. He got extreme plot armor. Extreme plot armor. And it lasted ever since the very first episode, where James gets eliminated, where we could all say, hey, you know, if it was maybe for one or two other votes, we could have seen Jake go and him too. Jake got extreme plot armor this whole season. It's never fun watching a plot armor character make it extremely far. Like, we want to see the characters who actually did good in the game and deserve it to make it to the final two. Not just one, but two characters who got extreme plot armor made it to the final three, or final two. That is crazy insane. So what are we left with? We're left with a very whiny, bratty character who does nothing but pick fights with everyone, and it's so annoying. He fights with Allie, he fights with James, he fights with Aiden. It just gets so old and annoying. He even fights with his friends. It's just... I don't even know what else you want me to say. He's a big screen hogger too, like I've said. Literally, the first, 3 episodes of Season 3, he's on the title card. Like, what? Why can't we have... Oh, gee, I don't know. Someone different. I swear, Jake was just the main character in Season 3. I don't understand why this character, out of any character, is our main character. He's not liked by everyone. He's just a fine character by some and annoying by many. I hate this character, and I can't believe that he got second place in Season 3. It was not fun watching his plot armor this season. I remember watching it weekly, and I'm just here like, well, what stupid things are they going to do to butcher stories just to make Jake and Rhea make it extremely far? It was not fun to watch. But Jake, yeah, he's easily, without a doubt, my absolute least favorite character of Disventure Camp, and he always will be, without a doubt, unless they somehow find a character who can be even worse than him. But as of right now, it is definitely Jake, 100%. I can't find a character who I want to pull my hair out more than this character. I hate him, and I really hope that after the spin-off that we get with him and Tom, we never see him again, because I am sick of this character. And I'm sure a lot of fans are too. We don't want to see Jake anymore. Jake is gone. No more Jake. Please. Alright, enough of Jake. Let's move on to the next character, and that is Fiore. Now, I bet most people can agree with me on Jake, but Fiore? She's a beloved character by many, and I honestly don't really see why, except for the fact that she's a little girl. Okay, so just like Jake, Fiore was in 3 seasons. She was in the beta, Season 1, and then, of course, Season 3. So, and she made it to, what, second place for both the beta and Season 1, and then for Season 3, she ended up getting, 14th place. Thank God. So, Fiore basically is a little 6-year-old girl. She's on Disventure Camp because why not? It's proven then in, Episode 1, or Episode 2, I forget, that she is going to be our main villain. Okay, I do kind of like the twist of the little girl being the villain. But we already have Nina, and she's sassy, and she's much better. She's a much better character, in my opinion. So, Fiore then eventually reveals to everyone about her being a villain, which I thought was interesting at first, but as Season 1 went on, it dragged. Her and Alex trying to keep their villain alliance a secret just got very old, and then when it finally got revealed Then every character besides Miriam just acted extremely stupid and didn't get them out. This was my main problem with season 1, is that Fiore and Alec definitely got a lot of character development, plot armor. Not as bad as Jake and Rhea from season 3, but definitely to the point where it was like, it's just no fun watching them, because they're not really fun bad guys to watch anyway. I mean, what is Fiore? She's a little girl who doesn't listen to her parents and then acts like this, and her parents do absolutely nothing to punish her. Like, I don't understand. It's just like I said. Okay, I will say this: I've only seen every season one time, except for the beta. So if I'm missing something, because these characters are extremely complex, so I'm not gonna mention everything that happens. But yeah, her and Alec end up on the same team, so they end up creating a bond, and they both basically work together and try to make it to the finals. And then they make it all the way to 4th place until Alec finally goes home. Fiore makes it to the final 3, but luckily doesn't win. But I guess we did have that cool old versus young finale with Miriam versus Fiore. That was a great finale, unlike All Stars. But boiling it down, this is just a little girl who disobeyed her parents and is just very bratty and annoying, honestly, to watch. I don't really find anything interesting about Fiore, except for the fact that she can somehow manipulate these older characters who should be way smarter than she is. And the amount of plot armor that she got in Season 1 just got very old. And then we have Season 3, which she ended up being in it, which I was kind of annoyed because I was like, really? She's coming back again? And she got 2nd place, so what's the point of bringing her back when we know she's going to get eliminated pretty soon on? Which was true because she ended up getting 14th place. Now, she did almost seem like she was getting some plot armor at first, but luckily she went home fairly early. There's a lot of characters. That's a big problem with Season 3 as well. Too much plot armor for many characters. Now, I would say I did actually like her better in All-Stars. Now, yeah, she didn't get really too much character development, but I feel like her and Alec's story... Because Alec ended off Season 1 of hating Fiore because Fiore betrayed him and stuff. But I like how their friendship started growing a little closer again. And also, they did it in fun ways and not just annoying ways like in Season 1. Also, the fact that Alec got a lot of character development too. So it wasn't just them being just annoying together like they were originally. So it was nice seeing them just being good friends together. Like, they turned more into a likable... Okay, Fiore is definitely better than Jake, but boiling it down, it's just your typical bad guy. Like, she isn't really that fun to watch, and I feel like she gets too much plot armor and is praised too much, honestly. If you can like her, good. I'm glad you can find good things about her, but I just personally think she's kind of meh. So, yeah, nothing else I have to say. Let's move on to number 26, which is Yul. Welcome another complex character. So Yul was in Season 2 and then Season 3. So in Season 2 he got 10th place, where in Season 3 he got 9th place, which isn't much better, but Season 2 only had 14 contestants, whereas Season 3 had 18 contestants. So it did feel like he stayed in it a lot longer. I didn't really like Yul in Season 2 at all. I just found him extremely annoying, obnoxious, and just very loud and just annoying, and a big bully. Definitely not one of my favorites to watch. He ends up trying to poison Aiden, but that fails miserably, and he ends up getting poisoned instead. Season 3, it actually seemed like he was getting some character development, because he started dating Gret. Gret is one of my favorite characters of all time, and seeing Yul get some great character development is really good. But unfortunately, that started slipping as the season went on, and he started showing his old ways, being just very bratty and very rude, and judging Gret's weight, which is not okay. Also the fact that he started caring less about Gret, and more about himself, and just, basically used Gret. Now, at least for that did give Gret a lot of character development, and made her one of my favorite characters of all time, but Yul, it didn't really help his situation. Although, not gonna lie, I thought he was more watchable in Season 3, just because Season 2, I just found him so annoying, but Season 3, at least he had some comic relief moments. So he's kind of like a worser Scott from Total Drama in a way, like a way worser Scott. But The reason why he's better than Fiore is because he doesn't get all this stupid plot armor. He's basically just a joke character, and even in the hotel episode where it seemed like he could get some character development, they throw that out the window and just make him be his usual bratty self. I don't know, Yule's a very complex character. Luckily, Gret gets back at him, so we get to see some satisfying, actual good story plots in All-Stars, but it doesn't last for long because we have to immediately be screen-hogged by Jake again. Yule is not my favorite character, and he easily is my third least favorite, so now let's get to number 25, which is Rhea. Alrighty, so Rhea originates in Season 2, and of course came back in All-Stars Season 3. So, Rhea starts off as a fairly normal human being. I mean, nothing too interesting about her, but she's just overall nice. She ends up growing a bond with Connor, who's one of the older gentlemen in her season. And as time goes on, though, she starts revealing herself as a villain to her good friend at the time, Rosa Marie. So she ends up getting Rosa Marie eliminated and eventually makes it to the final two along with James. So Rhea is technically our surprise villain of Season 2, which I thought was actually pretty cool and an interesting way to do this. None of this Fiore stuff from Season 1 where she's telling everyone that she's the main villain. No, Rhea hides it until the very end, which what makes it interesting about that is she doesn't feel like she gets a lot of plot armor. So that definitely doesn't get annoying. And even towards the end, she does still have what seems to be some redeemable qualities. Yeah, she's a villain now, but she does seem like it almost feels like she's doing it just for the money. Like, she doesn't mean to hurt people, but she wants to just to get the money. And she looks back and wonders why she did it. So, I mean, yeah, I honestly thought she was a pretty interesting villain and a pretty good character in Season 2. And she definitely was a very complex character, as they all are. And I wanted to see more of Rhea in Season 3. Rhea definitely had some unfinished business and unfinished stories to tackle. And they really could have done a really good job with this and have her been completely, changed by the beginning of the season. No, that's not how this season went at all. Instead, the first half of the season had to focus on the stupid Jake, Tom, and Aiden crap, and then in the second half of the season, we have to wait till Connor comes back for Rhea and Connor to have their beef. And it's not just a bunch of... And it's the same stupid stuff. Rhea hurts Connor. Connor sees something good in Rhea, so he doesn't bail right away, and it's just a rinse and repeat process throughout the whole season until Connor eventually eliminates himself just to let Rhea not win. But of course that fails miserably, and Rhea ends up winning. And instead of her redeeming herself before she becomes this bad, she ends up just working her way up to becoming this extremely just unbearable villain to watch, because like I said, in Season 2 she had great story. I liked what they were going, and they could have done more with her in Season 3. Instead, they decided to go with her being the main villain of the season, which makes zero sense, because I feel like her villain story is basically wrapping up. Characters like Alec, Fiore, even Yule, they have more villainy in them than Rhea does, I feel like. So Rhea then just randomly becomes this psychopath who will hurt anyone in her way. She literally hurts Connor at least 3 times, but still we get to see that, she still has sympathy for him, or she could still be a redeeming character. You could have done this so early on in the season and not make her do all this stuff and then do... I don't understand why they make her such a complicated character. She didn't have to be this complicated. But instead, they chose this, and they decided to make the Season 3 route go for money can't buy happiness junk, and Rhea ends up winning, which makes it easily the most unsatisfying winner of all time. Better than Jake, because Jake is unbearably annoying, but Rhea did not deserve the $1 million this Season 3. That is for dang sure, especially after everything she's done to Connor. Luckily, it does seem like at the end of the season she does kind of realize her mistakes, but it just feels so useless to do it this way when they could have done it at the beginning of the season and not worry about it. Instead, focus on the more focus on the characters people wanted to see. Even after season 2, people were kind of iffy on Rhea, and now we just got this. And this is what I like to call wasted character potential. She had so much character potential, and they just threw that out the window. They made her just exist in the first half of season 3, and then she all of a sudden became the main villain once Merge happened. It's just so awkward the way they did it. It's just so awkward the way they writ season 3. It's so lazy. Oh my gosh, like, you're starting to give Pocket 2 Island a run for its money. Just kidding. I think Pocket 2 Island's still worse, but wow, I've never seen a season go this far down, next to TD All-Stars. What is it with all these All-Star seasons? Alright, I'm done talking about Rhea. Rhea is garbage. She could have been such a great character, but they threw that out the window. So, now let's get to, I don't even know what number we're at, 24, I think, and that would be Nick. Okay, thank God we're out of the terrible characters now. Now we're just in the below average, just meh characters. So Nick obviously was in the beta season, and then he was in season 1. So I've only seen season 1 time, and it was the first season I ever watched, so I don't really remember too much about this character, except for the fact that he was good friends with Lil, Will, and Ashley. But he ended up, in the beta, he made it pretty far. He made it up to 4th place, but in season 1, he only made it to, like 12th place, or something like that. So, I don't really know much about this character, except for the fact that he got a little annoying before he got eliminated, due to him becoming very cocky and not believing things that Lil and Ashley would say, and Will. So he became a little annoying, and I think a lot of people agree. But luckily, this is 1 season, and a lot of people liked him better in the beta. Never seen beta, so I can't determine that. I can just determine off of the first season, and he was definitely one of the weaker characters. I'm glad he didn't return in All-Stars. He didn't really need to. So, yeah, let's move to number 23, which is Ellie. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate Ellie, and I do think she has a lot going for her. But comparing her to some of my favorite characters, there's no comparison. So Ellie was in the beta, Season 1, and Season 3. And she ended up winning the beta season, which is crazy. 3rd place in Season 1, and then 13th place in Season 3. So, Ellie is this girl from college, and she really wants the money, and she really needs it, and she constantly reminds us throughout the whole season. Season 1, I thought she was fine in. She was a little boring, but nothing too bad. She was one of the ones that kind of liked to stir up the drama a little bit, almost kind of helped Alec and Fiore a little bit. Season 3, when she came back, obviously she wasn't in as many episodes, so we didn't get really to see too much of Ellie. My thing with Ellie is I think she's she's a fine character, but they don't really give her much besides she wants the money, so she'll try to do anything to get it. Oh, so she's kind of like a more tolerable Rhea in a way. Because she tried to do a bunch of things, and she definitely was a big part of the Tom, Aiden, and Jake crap that we had at the beginning of Season 3, trying to stir up a lot of that drama. Thanks a lot for that, Ellie. It didn't really work well, but whatever. And Tess ends up noticing how Ellie is acting more different, so she is kind of like a more tolerable Rhea in a way. So they end up voting her out before she can become more unbearable to watch, before she becomes basically a Rhea. So luckily she got stopped early enough, so then she ends up realizing her mistakes and just tries to have fun with life instead of I don't know what the word is, but instead of being super obsessed with money, I think is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. She ends up having more fun with, like, Rhett and Gabby and stuff. So, once again, another extremely complex character, but at least this is a more tolerable character. She's alright, I guess. I don't know. Nothing else I have to say, so let's move on to number 22, which is Carol. So Carol was only in 1 season, Season 2, and she originally ended up being the 2nd boot, aka 13th place. But she ended up coming back for an episode and ended up getting 7th place overall. So, okay, so she's basically like Eva from Total Drama, and I'm not really sure which one I like better. Maybe Carol, just because I feel like they had more going with her, instead of Eva just being the typical grouchy lady. I don't know. Carol, I feel like, just has more going for her because she doesn't really get along with humans, but she gets along well with animals. I feel like Carol is just such an interesting character, but they don't really do too much with her because she's only in like a total of 3 episodes. In the game, at least. She's in like 3 episodes. So we don't get really to see too much. She is obviously one of the villains, next to Yol and Rhea from this season. So I guess she's sort of interesting. I don't know. I've only seen season 2 one time. I don't really remember Carol that much. She's fine, I guess. Here you go. Good old Carol. So let's move on to number 21, which is Aiden. So Aiden has been in season 2 and in season 3. Season 2 he got 3rd place, and in season 3 he got 7th place. So I thought Aiden was a pretty interesting character in season 2. He was almost kind of like the main character along with James. And their friendship was pretty great. I guess. Whatever. It was better than Jake and Tom, that's for sure. Aiden really does kind of remind me of Jake in some ways, though. He does kind of get a little sassy with things, but he's definitely a much more tolerable character than Jake is. And he doesn't get as much screen time as Jake does either, and isn't so much of a screen hog, nor quite doesn't get as much plot armor, and he's way more bearable. Plus, I did kind of like him in Season 2. I thought he was a pretty good character. Season 3, they didn't really have much of a story left for Aiden, so they just kind of put him in the middle between Tom and Jake, and then continued to carry him until he ended up getting 7th place. I don't really think Aiden should have survived that long, especially longer than characters like Tess and Ashley and frickin' Gabby. Ay. I don't think Aiden, especially since he already made it to the final 3 in the original season, and they didn't really have much going on with him except for, oh look, him and Jake are friends now. Big whoop. I could care less about Jake. I want to see more of these interesting characters. But Aiden's fine overall, I guess. So he's here at number 21. So let's move to number 20, which is Dan. Hey, talk about a forgettable character. So Dan originates in the beta season and then came back in season 1, obviously. The beta season, he was the first boot, whereas this time he got, like, what, 9th place? Yeah, 9th place. I just don't think they really have much going for Dan. He's friends with Gabby at first, and then Gabby votes him out, and that's a whole situation. Dan goes home, and there you go. That's Dan for you. He's just such a forgettable character. Like, I completely forget half the time he's in the cast. No wonder he didn't make it into the season 3 cast, because he's just not that memorable of a character. He's not bad, like, he's not unbearable, he's not a Jake, but, hey, he's just a little boring. He's fine, he's just a little boring, though, so we're in that weird category where there's just nothing to say about characters, so now let's move on to number 19, which is Oliver. Okay, at least we're getting into the characters that are somewhat interesting. So, as an intern, Oliver's a great character. I love him. It's fun seeing him help out Crystal and Marcus and Nina in season 2 and 3. As a contestant, though, I don't really remember him much as a contestant. I just remember he gets first boot and begs Crystal to keep him. So Crystal does, and Oliver is now an intern. I don't really remember much of this character, so unfortunately I have to put him lower. But I obviously remember him more as an intern than anything, but as a contestant, not so much. So nothing else I have to really say about Oliver. He's a great character, just as a contestant, not one that I remember too much. So let's move to number 18, which is Kai. Interesting. This is our Zen guy, as the title says. And he's very calm and relaxed until Yol pushes his buttons, and then he flips out on him. So Kai is in season 2, and he ends up getting in 12th place. Well, actually, no, 13th place, because Carol comes back, as I said. So he ends up being technically then the second boot. I do think they have some things going for Kai. He seems like a fairly interesting character. But at the same time, I can see why he could be in more earlier boot too. So nothing else I really have to say. He's a fine enough character. So yeah, let's move on to number 17, which is Maggie. Maggie also was in season 2. And she did last a little longer than Kai did. I think she got like 11th? 10th? I think she got 10th, because I think Connor got in 11th. Something like that. So then Maggie got 10th, I think. Something like that. Or maybe, no, she got 9th. That's right, Yol got 10th. I almost forgot. So, Maggie is what they like to call the girl who's been bullied. And she seems like kind of an interesting character. She's almost kind of like a Rodney from Pocket 2 Island, but I think she has more going for her. Rodney, they don't have much going for him. He's just a character who falls in love with 3 women, and that's just how the story goes until he gets eliminated. Maggie learns to make friends on the island, and she ends up meeting her future boyfriend, Kai. They both make a cute couple. Finally, a good couple in disventure camp. I'm tired of seeing Tom and Jake everywhere, and even Aiden and James. So seeing Maggie and Kai is a very underrated couple. They're great characters. Nothing else I have to say. Let's move on to number 16, which is Alec. Alec is an interesting one. So Alec originates from season 1. No, he actually wasn't in the beta season. They added 2 new characters in season 1 that weren't in the beta, because beta only had 12 people, whereas season 1 had 14. So they added Alec as one of the characters, and then someone else that we'll talk about later. So Alec was in season 1 and season 3. Season 1, he got 4th place. Season 3, he got 6th place. So, not gonna lie, Alec was kind of annoying in season 1. He was just really boring in the first half, and once his bond with Fiore grew, it just became an overpowered, villainous group. And they end up dominating the season, unfortunately. Actually, they didn't dominate the season. Miriam did. But they did definitely get a lot of plot armor, and he did make his way up to 4th place. However, then they end up voting Alec out. So I was kind of glad to break up that alliance a little bit, because they were just too powerful and just not fun to watch. So Alec is basically, in season 1, on the verge of getting a divorce with his wife. And then by season 3, they do have a divorce. But Alec then realizes his ways in season 3, which we'll talk about in a sec. What I don't like about Alec in season 1 is he's just this big whiny brat. He's almost like a more tolerable Jake, but it's like when things don't go his way, he starts to flip out. Luckily though, when season 3 comes around, he starts to kind of realize his own ways. And they don't do it really poorly like they did for Jake. No, they actually try to give him some character development, which is really nice. He starts his bond back up with Fiore, which is great, I guess. I don't know, I liked them better in season 3, so okay. And he even bonds with characters like Rhea in some episodes. Obviously that goes wrong. He even bonds with Connor, which I loved seeing them two together. Definitely my favorite Alec and Blank bond, because them two felt like they had a good friendship going, and they had a great time together. And it felt like Alec actually had a true friend that wasn't just a villain. And Alec started learning how to be a better character. Yes, still being a villain, but just being a better character in general, and that's what I like. He basically went from just being this likable, annoying character in season 1 to a more tolerable character in season 3. I love his character development that he got, and he's learning from his divorce. So Alec would have been pretty annoying. He would have been down where Fiore was, but because he got all this character development, I thought he was a great character, and they did a lot with him. My only thing is that they kind of rushed that, I think, just to get him eliminated, which is kind of dumb, but oh, whatever. It's season 3, I'm not surprised anymore. So let's move on to number 14, which is Will. Wow, talk about a first boot being this great. So Will originates from the beta season, and then of course came back in season 1. The beta season, he got 11th place. This season, he got 14th place. So for the beta, he was the second boot, and in season 1, he was the first boot. Talk about a first boot character being so interesting. Will isn't really quite the outdoorsy type, but ends up growing a friendship with Ashley, and they both become really good friends throughout season 1, and by the time season 3 comes around, it's confirmed either they're dating, or heck, I don't think they're married, but I think they're dating, and having a good life together. So that's really great, seeing Will and Ash, another really underrated disventure camp couple. It's great seeing And he even made some cameos in season 3 as well, like the very first episode, for example, saying bye to Ashley, and the very last episode in when Rhea is sliding through all the TikTok posts, or whatever, the YouTube short, I don't even know what you want to call it. But Will is a really great character. He's the first character to find out of Fiore being a villain, but unfortunately not a lot of people believe him, and they end up voting him out. Will is actually a pretty interesting character. Like, they did a lot with him in the 2 episodes that he was in. So, I think Will is a great character. Definitely one of the better Season 1 characters, that's for sure. Nothing else I have to say, so let's move on to number 14. This was 15, by the way. Number 14, and that is Lil. So, Lil originates from the beta season, and of course from Season 1. The beta season, I think she got like 8th or something, and then in this season she got 11th/10th. Along with Ashley, since they both got booted right away. They both got booted together, I mean. So, Season 1, there's a big group. Lil, Will, Nick, and Ashley. These 4 are great friends, and they were actually pretty fun to watch. It's unfortunate that they were some of the first characters to go. Lil is a Girl Scout, and she knows a lot of things about the woods. So she ends up coming off already as a pretty interesting character, and she ends up growing a bond with Nick, mainly. Obviously Will and Ashley as well, but mainly Nick. And it's unfortunate Nick just had to get a little annoying, and he ended up getting out. But Lil overall stayed as a good character, and she ended up being the second character to find out about Fiore, and even then eventually convinced Ashley. It was cool seeing these characters find the clues about, is Fiore the villain or not. Lil is just overall a great character, and it's just a shame she didn't return in All-Stars. They could have added her instead of characters like Jake. Like, he didn't need any more, like, storytelling. He had enough. But yeah, Lil is definitely a really great character. One of the better characters from Season 1, that's for sure. So with that, let's move on to number 13, which is Drew. So here's the other character who wasn't in the beta season. Instead, he was a brand new character for Season 1. Kind of interesting the way they did that. The only difference is that he wasn't in the All-Star season, which is unfortunate, because Drew is actually a pretty interesting character. So, what is Drew, you may ask? He's a kid who doesn't talk. No, I'm serious, he doesn't talk. Instead, he writes down what he wants to say on a notepad and shows everyone. That is just such a unique and interesting idea. Unfortunately, he ends up being the second person booted from this season. Once again, another wasted character potential. I don't remember, but I think he is the one who ends up telling people about Gret, because him and Gret are on the same team, and Gret's a little bossy, so Drew ends up telling people about Gret, or warning people about Gret before he gets eliminated. Wasted potential. They could have had Drew in way more than just 2 episodes, competing at least. Or sorry, 3, because they had one where they always have like a 2-part series at the very first episode. But yeah, Drew overall is a really great character, and it's too unfortunate that this was his only season. So props to Drew. He did a good job. Well, he was second boot, but he's a great character. So now let's move to number 12, which is Tom. Interesting. So this character originates in the beta season, returned in Season 1, and of course returned in the All-Stars. So at first, in the first half of Season 1 and beta, Tom wore this mask, and basically hid a lot of his identity from everyone. But as time went on in Season 1, he started to show his identity, took the mask off, and showed everyone who he truly is. And Season 3, he gets a complete new outfit, so it's kind of interesting. Tom is another one of these really complex characters. In both seasons, he's basically working with the police. In Season 3, he is. 1, I don't remember what it is. Some sort of spy thing, but that's a lot of the staff story stuff, I think. I think that's what it was going for. I don't remember. I've seen it one time, so forgive me. But the only thing I don't like about Tom is because he's friends with Jake, he of course gets a little bit of screen hog time as well. Not bad like Jake, but definitely some moments where it's like, okay, Tom, let someone else have the screen. But then he becomes a little annoying in Season 3 at times too, yelling at Jake for little things, or just yelling in general, and definitely causing a lot of the Jake, Aiden, and Tom stuff at the beginning of the season, which no one was a fan of. So there was definitely some moments that got very annoying. Luckily, he did get 10th place in this season, so we did get to see a lot of him, but not too much. He got 6th in the original in season 1, and this season he got 10th. So Tom is a very complex character. He does have some funny one-liners, but other than that, he's okay. He's a fine character, but I definitely liked him better in season 1, I think. I don't know. There's so many complex characters. Let's move on to number 11, which is Hunter. We reached the guy who's cool, popular, and good at challenges. So, Hunter originates in Season 2, and of course ended up coming back in All-Stars Season 3. So, Hunter did really good in Season 2. He got 4th place. Mainly due to his bond with Allie and Tess, which those three ended up dominating the season a lot, bringing them into at least, like, what, 9th place as the worst? I think that's what Tess got. But Hunter ended up making it to the 4th place, which is really good, because, as it says, he was good at challenges. He was basically best friends with Allie, and they both loved playing video games together. And then with Tess, he was kind of helping Tess out with Tess' struggles. When Season 3 comes around, we don't really have too much of a Hunter story left, so he ended up getting in, 15th place, which is definitely not as good as 4th place, but I understand why he got eliminated fairly early. A lot of his story has already been finished. One thing I didn't like was the amount of fighting between him and Allie, but we'll talk about that in a sec. But luckily it got resolved, and it was just basically a nothing thing, so that was great. So yeah, Hunter, great character. Now let's move on to the top 10, with number 10 going to Allie. I feel like Allie is a very mixed character. Some people really like her, and other people just can't stand her, mainly due to her Season 3 performance. Let's start with Season 2. It's simple. She liked playing video games and befriended Hunter and Tess. So Allie made it all the way to 6th place, which that's pretty good, not bad. Besides playing video games, though, she didn't really have too much of a story. When Season 3 came around, Allie had more of a complex story. Besides her just loving to play video games, her and Hunter's relationship started becoming a little iffy. Although a lot of it did have to do with Allie and her trying to get over a lot of her hate comments on YouTube, I guess. Or video, I don't know how it worked, but apparently she got some hate, and she didn't like it. So she got very angry about certain things. Luckily, once Hunter got eliminated, then she became a much more interesting character, and it wasn't just about her and Hunter fighting the whole time. It was interesting seeing how Allie would play the season without Hunter. Now, obviously, then we ended up getting the stupid Jake versus Allie stuff, which that wasn't no fun because it was usually something stupid that started, and it was usually something stupid that Jake would do. So then Allie has to pay for the stuff Jake does, which makes zero sense, at least in the first half of the Jake versus Allie rivalry. And it was basically to the point where Ashley was just so tired of having to stop the whole drama, which I understand. Definitely yell at Jake a little more than Allie, though, because there's just some situations that Allie doesn't deserve the hate, and that, when certain situations Jake yells at her, it's like, really? It's so rude, and it's just, I don't know. I don't know what they were trying to do with Jake, but it clearly wasn't to make him a likable character. Allie, on the other hand, at least they tried to give her more personality, and they did a decent job overall. She ends up befriending other characters, obviously like Ashley, and even Connor at one point. Even some of the villains, like maybe Gret, that's about it. And she does way better this season, getting in 3rd place. That's pretty good, although I don't know what season I liked her better in, since Season 1 she wasn't too Season 2 she wasn't too complex, but Season they made her a really complex character, so I don't really know. She's such an odd character to determine, but I think she's good enough to at least make top 10. Now let's get to number 9, which is Ashley. So Ashley originates from the beta season, Season 1, and then All-Stars. Beta and Season 1, she gets 10th place. And then this season she gets 11th place. Well, I guess 10th until Connor comes back. Then it's 11th. Because she ends up making it to merge, actually, because the final 10 ended up being merged for this season, which was kind of interesting. But she ended up being the first merged character eliminated, which is unfortunate. And what really makes it annoying is that Ashley was supposed to win this season. She was going to win the Total Drama All-Stars. It was between her and Tess. And Ashley was going to win. That would have been such a way, way better finale than Rhea and Jake. Two of the absolute worst characters that no one wanted to make it to the finale. Now, sure, I would rather characters like maybe Gret or Gabby, but Ashley any day over Jake and Rhea, for sure. Ashley and Tess, any day over those two. Because, yeah, Ashley was a decent character in Season 1, but most of it was just her existing and befriending Will. So it was fun seeing that, but I liked her even more in Season 3 because she ended up confessing, like, a time back in the day when she accidentally burned down a farm, and she wants to win the money to help build it again, which is really great. And she ends up telling the absolute worst character about that, too. Her and Jake get some bonding. Her and Allie, of course. And I love how she ends up beating Fiore, which is one of her biggest goals, to beat Fiore. So, nice job, Ashley. You beat Fiore. But it's just such a shame that because of Jake, Ashley ends up getting eliminated. Because she had so much character potential, and a lot of it just got thrown out the window, and she ended up turning into the mom of Allie and Jake. Basically just yelling at them to stop fighting. Which is fine, because Jake definitely started a lot of that, but yay. Basically, Ashley is a great character, and it's a shame she didn't win, but whatever. She just can't get better than 10th place, unfortunately. So, now let's move on to number 8, which is Connor. So Connor was in Season 2, and then, of course, came back in the All-Stars for Season 3. Connor got, 11th place in Season... whatever it was, Season 2. So he ended up being, the 3rd person going home. Or 12th, I think, actually. And then in Season 3, he ended up getting 12th once again, going home in between Fiore and Hunter. But Connor ended up coming back in the Merge Challenge, or in the Redemption, whatever you want to call it. He ended up coming back and made it to 4th place instead. Okay, so Connor's an interesting character. In Season 2, he was trying to be hip like all the young people, and he ended up befriending Rhea. In Season 3, now it's just more of him trying to figure out Rhea, and Rhea ends up breaking up with him. What is this whole thing with Rhea and Connor dating? Rhea is what, in her 20s, 30s? And Connor is here in his, 50s and 60s. That is a big age gap, but okay. Anywho, Connor ends up finding out how toxic Rhea actually is due to everything Rhea does to him, and ends up saying, nah, no more. Even though the show's over and you can stop pretending to be this person you're not, no way. There's no chance. Connor's a pretty cool character overall. I just feel like, I don't know, what's the thing? I feel like they could have done stories with him differently. He always has to have a problem going on. He's always so gullible and tries to believe things Rhea says, so it's just, and it goes on the whole season, so it just kind of makes Connor's character just feel kind of useless. And it's okay, I understand why he's a first boot, because, he doesn't really have much left for a character, because if not, then he'll just get plot armor like Aiden, and just exist. And that's kind of how it was for the second half of the season when he was just there. It was basically just a lot of him versus Rhea, and it just got very old. But overall, I do think Connor's a good character. I just feel like the him and Rhea stuff could have been resolved way earlier, instead of dealing with it at the very end of the season. Alright, time to move on to number 7, which is James. So James was in Season 2, and then came back in All-Stars. So for James, he actually ended up winning Season 2, which is really interesting. But of course, in All-Stars, he ended up getting 18th place, aka the first boot. So James has been the first person eliminated and has won. Okay, kind of interesting. Which is fine. He's first boot because I mean he already won. His story's over, so why make him stay long and give him plot armor? There's no point to that, right? Jake, Aiden, anyone else I forgot to mention? So James starts off as this, I don't even know what you want to call it, almost kind of like bratty, thinks about himself only character in season 2. As time goes on, though, he ends up befriending Aiden, and they both become good friends. And James ends up learning more about, hey, stop caring about myself and let's care about others for a change. And he ends up becoming a much more likable character, especially once Rhea ends up becoming our main villain. So we're more rooting for James to win, obviously, opposed to Rhea. And that's exactly what happens. James ends up winning, and he definitely deserved it because he got good plot. It wasn't like Jake where they meandered along lazily. So season 4 Disventure Camp, take notes from James. Because if you want to make a character like him, who starts off annoying but gets better, do it more of the James way, not the Jake way. Because the Jake way didn't work at all in my opinion. But for James, at least he ended up being a likable character. And for season 3, basically is the same character. He was in only a few episodes. So James is definitely a great character, and he makes top 10. So now let's get to number 6, which is Tess. So Tess originated in season 2 and also came back in the All-Stars. So Tess was part of the friends with Hunter and Allie. Unlike Hunter and Allie, though, Tess didn't really want to play video games. And instead, she would have much rather just do things on her own. And in one of the episodes, Hunter ends up finding pills that Tess takes to, let's just say it helps her be happier. We'll just say that. So Tess ends up befriending Hunter and Allie, as I said, and Tess ends up becoming happier and becomes, I don't know what the word is, but how do I say this? She starts finding things to enjoy, is what I'm trying to say. And unfortunately, she ends up getting booted in, 9th place in season 2 or something like that, which that's extremely early. Because Tess is a really great character. But luckily, she came back in All-Stars. And she definitely had more ways to go. What's really interesting is that now she's all happy, she's having a great time. She's making friends with characters like Ellie and Gabby, for examples. Yeah, she did get 11th, then 12th place. So she did even worse, but whatever. And she was originally going to make it to 2nd place. Why did they change this? Why? We didn't want to see Jake at 2nd place. We wanted Tess. Why? I don't understand this concept of them having to make the absolute most annoying character of Disventure Camp mug the screen and be in every single frickin' episode. Instead, much better characters like Tess deserved it, for sure. And I love how she is now helping other people out. So, that's a common thing when you go through things like Tess does, which I'm not going to explain what it was, but if you watch the seasons, you know what it was. But I'm glad to see where Tess has come. She's a very great character, for sure. Definitely one of my favorite characters. So with that, let's get to, I believe we're at the top 5 now. So let's get to number 5, which is Miriam. Who could take this old lady seriously? She is a great character, and she's easily one of my favorite characters of the original cast. So Miriam originates in the beta season, where she got 7th place. Then, of course, she's in season 1 and season 3. For season 1, she ends up winning the $1 million, which is great because Miriam definitely deserved it. Kind of like James, she goes from a meh character to just a great character. Okay, Miriam, not quite as bad, but she starts off as more of a grouchy old lady. And as time goes on, she befriends Jake and other characters. And she ends up having fun in the game and wants to actually win. And she ends up taking moves strategically, not making it far because of plot armor like Jake and Fiore. No, she's actually playing the game strategically, and she made it to not just the final two, but ended up beating Fiore and won, which is great because she definitely deserved it. Season 3 she came back, which I was like, oh no, because they're gonna have her be one of the first boots because she won, and that's exactly what happened. She got like 16th place, I think. She was the third person to go home, which is a shame, but she already had her story, so that's understandable. Miriam is just a great character, and she's really goofy too. She has her funny one-liners. She's like Connor, but just not quite as complex. And she isn't obsessed over one character. She isn't obsessed over trying to make someone. I don't know what the word is, but she's not like Connor, basically. So she's overall a more likable character. Although I like Connor, but Miriam's just better overall. So with that, let's move to number 4, which is Gret. Man, oh man, talk about character development. So Gret originates from the beta season. She came back in Season 1, and then, of course, in All-Stars. So in the beta, she got 5th place. Not bad. And then in Season 1, she got 7th place, where she was more seen as the sassy lady who wanted to boss people around. So almost kind of like a more tolerable Carol in a way. She mainly wanted to boss around Gabby. And Gabby finally stood up to her, but unfortunately Gabby got eliminated before Gret did, but everyone else ended up voting out Gret. Gret ended up joining Alec and Fiore's alliance for like 2 episodes because they ended up being on the same team together, and that went swimmingly because then they ended up voting out Gret. In the All-Star season, however, Gret ended up getting like just a major character development, which is so great to watch. In the original, as I said, she was very sassy, very bossy, very attitude, but as Season 3 came along, she started a relationship with Yul. Not sure if that's a good idea or not, but I guess we'll see how it goes. So it starts off fine, but unfortunately Yul starts proving to be he's more controlling rather than actually loving Gret. But Gret can't really see through that because she finally finds someone that appreciates her, who she is. Because Gret hasn't really had much of that. So having Yul say that even though Yul's pretending, that means she'll do anything for Yul. So she ends up just becoming a much more nicer character in Season 3, still being considered a villain, but she's just way nicer. She's a much better villain opposed to just being the stereotypic bad guy. She has more character development, and she feels like a fun villain to watch. Because of all of her character development, everyone's like, oh, okay, this is our obvious winner this season, because she did so well this season. She had so much character development. She had a great redesign. All the characters had really great redesigns in Season 3. And she became, I don't know what the word is. She's still they constructed her as a really great villain. And she finally started befriending other characters like Gabby. Yeah, the person that she bullied in Season 1 ended up becoming her best friend in Season 3. And even towards the end, Ellie. So it was kind of interesting seeing Gret's character development. And kind of pushing away Yul, which was really funny to see since Yul it's funny to see Yul get what he deserves. But unfortunately they make the stupid decision to get rid of Gret. Really? Because she really could have deserved the $1 million. Not Rhea or Jake. Gret definitely deserved it. She got the most character development. She's the one everyone wanted to see win, but instead, it was Rhea. I mean, they wanted a villain to win, so the writers were like, okay, fine, here's Rhea. Hope you enjoy. So yeah, Gret is a really great character for sure, and she definitely makes top 5. So with that, let's get to number 3, which is Rosa Marie. I know, I'm just as surprised that she didn't return in All-Stars as you are, so she's only been in one season, Season 2. Although she did do really well and get 5th place, which that's really good. Unfortunately, she ends up getting eliminated because Rhea ends up making everyone think that she stole all their items. Oh, kind of like Dawn and Scott in Total Drama in a way. Rosa Marie is just such a really interesting character. She's really well constructed, and she's such a friendly character. She ends up befriending Lake and, of course, Rhea at one point before they find her being a villain, and she's just a very friendly person in general. And what's even great, yeah, she's not a character in season 3, but at least we got a cameo from her in the very first episode where she says bye to Lake. Rosa Marie is a mom. Yeah, and she's only a teenager. Moving on, so Rosa Marie, obviously befriends Lake and Rhea, as I said, and all three of them just have a really great time together until, unfortunately, they slowly start getting eliminated. Rosa Marie has just such an interesting, it's just such an interesting and great character, and it's so unfortunate that she wasn't an All Stars, but it's okay. I've enjoyed Rosa Marie in season 2. So Rosa Marie, definitely one of my favorite characters. It's just too unfortunate that she didn't make it into the All Stars. So with that, let's get to my second favorite Disventure Camp character, and that is Lake. Oh man, we talked about Rosa Marie, and now we're talking about her best friend, Lake. So Lake originates from season 2, but unlike Rosa, actually ends up coming back into the All Stars, but that's really great. The more Lake, the better. So Lake is a really interesting character. So in season 2, she kind of struggles with making friends, like a lot of the other characters in season 2 does. Because she thinks she's different. Mainly due to the fact that she is bald. Yes, she is bald. She starts off with a like really light blonde wig, but midway through season 2, she changes it to the classic red wig that we know, and ends up keeping that throughout the rest of the series. Like has a lot of other interesting stories that gets explored during season 2, which I'm not gonna spoil. I'll let you guys watch it, but basically, as the season goes on, Lake ends up making friends with Rosa Marie and Rhea until, of course, their rivalries, because, Rhea's the bad guy now. Lake, unfortunately, only made it to 8th place in Season 2. She's a great character. Only 8th place? Wow. And then the All-Star came and she got 14th place. Or, sorry, not 14th place. That's too nice. 17th place. That's right. She's the second boot. I understand she doesn't really have too much of a story left to, like, keep her in too long. But 17th place to Lake. Wow. And originally she was actually going to be the character who came back instead of Connor. That would have been way more enjoyable because they don't really have much to Lake anymore, so they could have had her come back just so she could, like, be in some more episodes besides just 3. Because Lake is just a great character, and it would be really nice to see her make it really far, but unfortunately, I guess 17th place is just how she's going to roll in All-Stars. You can thank Ellie for that one. Lake is just overall a great character, and she's absolutely one of my favorites. And she could almost be number 1, but I think there's one character who I think is a little better. So let's get to my favorite Disventure Camp character, and that is Gabby. Man, oh man, talk about the icon of Season 1. So Gabby was in the beta, Season 1, and then Season 3. In the beta, she got 10th place, and then in Season 1, 8th, and Season 3, also 8th. What is it with Gabby not being able to do better than 8th place? What is it with all these good people not being able to redeem themselves? First Ashley, and now Gabby. Like, what the heck? So, Season 1, it was a lot of Gabby trying to defend herself from Brett, and trying to do her own thing. She has multiple personalities, like Mike, except she, I think, is an even more interesting character than Mike is. Plus, she is really funny and has some funny moments. She's just a great character in general. Season 3, same way. Although she was kind of absent in the first few episodes, but by the time Ellie gets eliminated, Gabby starts, not showing herself, but she ends up becoming more of a main character. Because she wants to become a villain now, since they got rid of Ellie. How dare they get rid of Ellie? So Gabby is upset and wants to get rid of all the characters, starting with Tess, because she feels like Tess is the main reason why Ellie went home. So she ends up getting rid of Tess, and while she's in the Villains Alliance, that's when she starts befriending Gret, because Gret has had such a great character development that she's basically not really herself from Season 1 anymore. So it's great seeing Gabby and Gret just becoming good friends and both of them standing up to Yul together. Unfortunately, though, they just had to eliminate Gabby in one of the most stupidest ways possible. A purge challenge. One of my absolute favorites. Purge challenges always get rid of some of the best characters, like Gabby, for example. But I guess they do it just so they don't ruin characters, and they just more like, oh, this person's not going to make it to the finals, so this is how we're going to get rid of them type of way. Okay, but it just gets annoying because, like, a Purge, okay, time to see a good character go home, because they're not going to really have any other way to do it without the other characters getting extreme plot armor, which already happened. By the time Gabby went home, we were already like, bro, Aiden, Jake, Rhea, extreme plot armor, and yet Gabby still 8th place? What the heck? This is a character who definitely should have at least made it further in All-Stars. But Gabby's just overall a really just great character and a great friend. She's a great friend to Ellie, and of course now a great friend to Gret, and a great friend to Tess. And she's just a very interesting character. She almost reminds me of Izzy in a way from Total Drama, but isn't. So I can easily say that Gabby is my favorite character from Disventure Camp, and woo, that was a long video to make. A lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but it's fun talking about these Disventure Camp characters. Ranting about Jake, etc. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good day.